Hey guys, I'm Danny.
And I'm EJ, and this is the Your Living Proof podcast,
where we talk about addiction and how it affects the family, from the brutal to the beautiful and everything in between. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Why are you laughing at me already?
You're so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be with you.
I love it.
Sometimes
it's been a minute.
I've been in work meetings all day, and then I just get to hang out with this beautiful blonde. That's what I'm excited about.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we haven't been here for a minute. I think we missed a week.
Yeah, we did.
Maybe two.
We definitely missed.
Just fell victim to summer insanity like everybody else, where there's a few boring days and then there's a whole bunch of...
I know. It's funny because it's either there's nothing going on or everything is going on at the exact same time.
And is that our fault, though?
No, it's just everyone's life is like that. It's like days... I don't know. It's just how it works.
I know, but have we overcomplicated it? Because we try to find balance. There's this thing, I don't think there is like total balance, but we try to keep our kids involved and engaged in a bunch of activities because the alternative is what?
Boredom.
Video games.
Yeah.
Sitting there watching screens all day.
Yep.
And then we get them active and participating in all these things, and then it just controls our life. We're a non-paid Uber driver.
Can't have it all, guys. Can't. I've tried.
Wow. But we're in a safe place. The walls are padded, so we did have a little bit of a marital dispute before this episode.
We did?
Well, we settled some things. And actually, it never escalated because we're in a safe place.
Oh, I was like, I didn't even know that we did. So that's great.
She always wins, though. Just want to make it known that she always wins. When we do have arguments, because we do. We're no different than you guys. We have arguments, and she always wins. She's like the hammer. She will always win.
Well, I'm always right, so that's why.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, well, let's get into what's important, and that is helping people that are listening in, trying to navigate through the challenges of having an addicted loved one in their life, trying to understand what their role is and isn't. That's what this platform is for. We hope you join us. We hope you share this with other people, but we are trying to be a resource for the millions of incredible families and spouses out there who have a loved one stuck in this deadly trap.
Amen.
Today is really interesting because this is episode 82. I can't believe we've made it through 82 episodes.
It's awesome. We're going to have a lot more. It's so great.
We also spent a lot to do that. So anyway, I really hope it's helping a few people out there. But the topic for today
is... on that note, if it is helping you and you do love our podcast, take a minute and write us a review. Like wherever you listen to the podcast, rate it and write us a review because it really does. It actually helps other people find our podcast. It puts us more at the top of the list. So if you love listening to this podcast, just take 2 seconds and do it for us.
And do you just do that on whatever platform you're using?
Yep. That's all you got to do.
All right.
Super simple.
There it is. There's our pitch for today. Please, our plead is... give us a review, share it with somebody. But the topic for today's episode is awesome. And it's called the 6 stages of addiction. And this information was compiled, and some of it we're just going to read because we want to make sure that it's articulated right. I want you to understand where we derived all this from. Where these 6 stages came from was from years of experience working one-on-one with families and hearing about every single person's story, documenting it, compiling all that information. And then my wife, who is the intelligent one of our marriage, helped break it out into these identifiable stages. Yeah. So there's 6 stages. And why do we point them out? Because everyone who loves someone in addiction can find themselves in one of these stages. So I challenge you to listen and to think about where you are. And I will say that for some of you, it might vary week to week. Like you might be in stage 2 one week and then in stage 4 the other. Yeah. But when you understand where you're at and you also understand the progression of either how bad it's gotten or where it's going to get, then people are allow themselves to take action or get help that they need.
Yeah.
So
the way that I kind of look at it too is, have you guys ever seen those? They're kind of like puzzles for your eyes where it like shows you a picture of something magnified like 500% and you have to like guess what it is, right? And most of the time you look at it and you're like, I don't know, a mushroom. And then it turns out to be like a tie or something. That is kind of like a perfect illustration of these stages and how it happens, because you're in it and you're too close to it to be able to see it for what it is. And it doesn't even matter what kind of family you come from or what the addiction is or what the whole, circumstance is. Every family this happens to. Why? Because love is a powerful emotion and it takes over. And when you are so close to the situation, you can't see it. So I hope today, as we go through these, you can hear what we're saying and you could maybe go, oh, that could be that's where I'm at.
Well, I love you identified that, because it's the biggest challenge when it's someone you love. You're too focused, and rightfully so, on them, right? But the truth is, just as your loved one is going through their own stages of addiction, remember, addictions are progressive, every single one of them, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. But as they progress through their addiction, so does you and your family. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone is playing a role right now.
Yes.
So, like I said, addiction's progressive. So I want you to see if you can identify where you're at in these examples.
Okay, so we're just going to start with stage number 1, and we call this the rug doctor. Why? Because you're literally trying to find the right sized rug to shove everything under or to blame it on. Okay? Like it's you notice things because you love this person and you're so close to them. You notice things that others are not going to notice for months. But you pick up on them. You see them detaching in little ways or just acting out of character, and maybe even they're just detaching from themselves. There's subtle changes is what I'm saying, just subtle things.
Yeah, that you notice, and their behavior changes. There's habits, right? I wrote down some examples, groups of friends, even their demeanor. And like you said, there's subtle little changes here in stage 1. I love the topic. I love the title, The Rug Doctor, too. So, but none of them are big enough that it makes you feel like you have to pull the fire alarm.
I think that's what makes it so hard, too.
You may have even discovered things that are out of character, like vaping, hiding things, lying about things, using different language than they used to.
And I think the other thing is this causes a shift in you to search for a reason, like, why is this happening? Why? Why would this... I got to find a reason. I need something to blame this on, someone to blame it on. Maybe it's something that happened at school. Maybe it's a group of friends. Maybe it's some influence that you think is being forced upon them. Just maybe it's something that you did. Maybe your family just moved, or a divorce or something like that.
Yeah, so one common thread for all who are in stage 1 is that right now someone or something else is to blame for this unwanted behavior, and no one believes that things will ever progress to stage 2.
I think that's the kicker right there, is most people just think they just sit in this discomfort and they don't think it could really get any worse.
Yeah, so they're in stage 1 and they never imagine stage 2. So let's outline stage 2, what we call the hope continuum. Is a confusing place because depending on the hour, and I mentioned this earlier, maybe the week, you're either full of hope about your loved one or you're completely hopeless. And
the other thing that happens is another shift in you, which is you start getting more determined to get to the bottom of it.
Oh, it's like that. What's that sound? Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. What song is
it?
The
detective song.
Eye of the Tiger?
No. I think that was like Mission Impossible, but you become like the detective.
Yeah. Well, because things have gotten worse, right? Yep. It's not because you're crazy it's because you are very much aware that things have gotten worse, and your response to maybe catching them lying or whatever is that you just start snooping around. Like you start going through their stuff. You start reading their text messages. You start trolling their social media accounts. All those things that you don't want to be that parent or that spouse, but there you are and you're in it.
Everyone is. Every good mother and every good wife especially does that.
Yeah, it's natural.
They are hot on the trail. They're like what they become is the lead detective, like I said, and for good reason. You've discovered inappropriate content on their phone, their computer. Maybe you found drug paraphernalia. You found an empty liquor bottle in their backpack or in their car. When you confront them, they lie straight to your face. But they're also very capable of telling you what you need to hear and having a heart-to-heart conversation that leaves you feeling hopeful.
That's the hard part.
Still hopeful.
Yes. That's why we call it the hope continuum, because you're just like kind of this rag doll where they're able to have these very in-depth conversations with you where you're like, okay, they get it.
And they know how to keep you right where they need you.
Yeah, exactly. Give you enough information and be a little bit transparent. For you, you've also like pinpointed their behavior and now you get it. Like you're like, okay, I know exactly what I can blame this on. Like it's this. You either completely overreact to the whole situation, or a lot of people minimize it and go, oh, you know what? It's not really that big of a deal. I thought it was, but now that I know, like it's not that big of a deal. And still, because you are who you are,
because you are the Johnsons,
you're the Smiths, or you're the Johnsons, or whoever. You don't need any help from anybody. You will figure this out on your own before anything gets worse. You've got this.
Now we move to stage 3. Stage 3 is called fueling the addiction. This is when you start to get more confrontational. Why? Because things are progressed and things get more scary at this point.
Right.
Scarier. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay. Things like taking the doors off hinges.
Oh, that one's a big one.
I've heard that one quite a few times. If
Yeah.
you're someone who's taken a child's door off their hinges, you're not alone. Or put trackers on their car.
Yep.
If you're a wife that put a tracker on your husband's car, you're not alone.
Nope.
Apps are downloaded to monitor everything.
Yeah. Here's the hard part about that is your solution to the chaos is control. You actually have convinced yourself at this point that you can control the situation.
Because who better to do it than you, right?
You're so amazing. You know exactly how to, again, you've already become the lead detective. So you know how you can control this, right? At least you think you can. Things that you were maybe keeping from other people in your family, maybe it was your spouse, or maybe if it is your spouse, it's, other like children or their parents or something. Maybe you are now going to try to bring it up, right? You might say, okay, I'm going to open Pandora's box here. We're going to talk about this. You've also tried begging this person. You've tried looking them in the eyes, giving it your best award-winning dramatic conversation, begging them to stop. And the hard part is it just escalates the situation. Loud arguments happening, lots of fighting, a contention. The term, like you can cut the tension with a knife, is the feeling inside of your home. It's the feeling when that person's there, right? You have threatened everything. Maybe you've threatened divorce. Maybe you've threatened to kick them out. Maybe you have threatened your child or your spouse with every consequential thing you possibly could throw at them at this point. And unfortunately, every bit of that has only put gasoline on the fire. It's made the addiction gain momentum.
That's one of the things I resent and hate about addiction the most, is what it does to amazing good people around it. Yes, someone is sick, right? Someone has over time developed a disease in their brain. Yes, it started with poor choices, but now they're sick and they're out of control. But it is the only fatal illness that is contagious by other people, where it's now affecting them. Because it takes these amazing people and does everything you just said. They exhaust themselves and it starts to change them. Because most people, and I hear this from people all the time, is that it's like when they take a second to pause with their obsession on their loved one and look at themselves, they're like, I barely recognize myself. I hate myself.
Yeah.
Like I've heard this phrase often used, like I've just become such a bitch.
Yeah. Right.
Which is like a word that a lot of women wouldn't typically use, but they're like, that's just like what I feel like I've become. You hate how you're acting, but you also don't know what other options you have. Families in stage 3 struggle to be honest with each other even with those that they've paid to help them, or maybe with religious leaders, because the truth of what they've discovered is too painful and too scary to speak out loud. This only gives the addiction, this is the key part, doing this gives the addiction the oxygen it needs to get worse and move to stage 4.
Yeah, and before we move to stage 4, I just want to say what you just said is so incredible and so powerful if you can recognize it. And that is, there are so many people that will even at this point reach out and seek help from a professional, but they literally are too afraid to speak the actual truth about what they know or what they've experienced. They're still holding back a portion because it's too scary to confront. Like they will kind of like raise the flag, but not all the way, if that makes sense. Yep. It's like I'm too afraid to speak this truth out loud. So yes, I need help, but I'm not going to tell you the whole truth.
So this is where a lot of people have been, or you are, and you're just wondering what's next. Let's get to stage 4.
So stage 4 is actually becoming obsessed. That is what we named it because it is literally what happens to you. You have become obsessed with this person and their problems. You can't see anything else. You are motivated by nothing but proving them wrong and proving yourself right. You want to catch them in the act. You want to expose them for what you know that they are and prove to other people that you are not crazy. That's the hardest thing, right? You're trying to prove to people that you're not the crazy one, but quite honestly, you are acting crazy.
Well, and at this point, it's all you can think about, and it's all you talk about.
That is exactly right. So what happens is what happened in stage 3 gets amplified, and you are literally now the worst version of yourself. Because now you don't do anything but obsess about this person. You don't find joy in other things. This is it. This is all you do. And if it's a child that's addicted, this is where the mom and the dad separate on that path. Because the mom stays in the obsessive mode and the dad just goes, I just want them to knock it off. That's it. They handle it completely different.
This is often a lot of times where I meet people, and it's really sad because the moms end up exhausting themselves to where it has physical ramifications at times.
Absolutely.
But the dads, when they look back, this is when the dads, I guess in a way, got addicted to work or something.
Yeah.
Or a responsibility outside the home where they have more control over it.
Sure.
And it wasn't for wrong reasons. It's just they didn't know what to do with this situation. So they end up veering with all of their time, attention, and effort to other areas. It's a natural thing that happens. It often causes a lot of strain inside a marriage because dad's way of dealing with it is to bury himself in work, like I said. And fear drives most of the decisions at this point. But anger and frustration are also constant companions because you just can't figure out why in the world you can't get through to them. From extensive experience, almost all families have been paralyzed at this point by threats of suicide. It's a hard one that a lot of people won't talk about. But I have an assessment form when people join the program, and one of the very first questions is how frequently do they threaten suicide or have they attempted it? And some people might think, well, that's bizarre, but almost every time the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Or the answer is all the time, or yesterday, or last week when we tried to do something.
Right.
That's a tough one.
That is very tough. And what happens to a lot of moms is that they feel really guilty at this point because they don't feel like they've been a good enough parent to the other children, or maybe to their spouse, or maybe to both. It's a really rough place to be in. And you cope with that by spending more and more time Googling different solutions, right? Band-Aids. We're looking for more Band-Aids for this. The emotional wear and tear that you have had at this point creates the perfect storm to have absolutely no thoughtful responses to the chaos that is continuing to gain momentum. and things just continue to get worse and worse, not just for the addict. The addiction definitely gets worse, but everyone in the family, their life gets worse.
Hence the term a family disease. Nobody wants to admit it. No family wants to admit it. Never has one been like, oh yeah, it's a family disease. Not our family, right? There's that uniqueness that comes when it's your child. I want to outline now stage 5. Let's get into stage 5 and stage 6. Please pay close attention. This might be where you're at, or this might be where you're headed. I wrote this one down for a good reason. Stage 5 is called addiction roulette, because that is the deadly game that you are playing at this point without realizing it. You're now actively trying to fix your loved one by treating symptoms and addressing immediate needs. So this means that your days and nights are filled with finding resources for their problem, like a new medication, a doctor, psychiatrist, therapist, energy workers. Heaven's sakes, there's new quick and easy fixes out there like ketamine treatments or whatever it is. You try to find anyone that will offer temporary relief.
For you or for them, right?
For you or for them.
Another key characteristic of this stage is saying, this is not allowed in my house, but constantly making the exception for that one person, right? They're the exception to every single rule. And their threats actually control whether you follow through or not. Because like we said before, they're threatening suicide. They're throwing that out. You'll never see them again. That controls you following through with any of your threats. There's also an undeniable financial impact at this point with all of the Band-Aids, all the temporary solutions, probably things that they've done that have cost you money that you've ended up having to pay for. This is a stage where a great deal of people reach out and say, help, this happened. And I need you to help me now.
Help, our house is on fire.
Yeah, we're all burning.
You wish they could just want it for themselves, right? Like everybody at this point is just like, oh my gosh, when are you going to wake up and take the wheel of your life again? When are the consequences piling up around you going to get so high that you want more for your life? You're fearful that if you push them, they might just disappear, overdose, or die. Why? Because they've planted those seeds of fear in you over and over. And this is where many have attempted treatment, only to have their hopes dashed when it didn't work. It's unbelievable how many families get stuck in this stage for months, even years, playing addiction roulette by banging their head against the wall in the same spot and wondering if the next hit will be the one that cracks it.
The devastating truth for all families that are at this point is that the family cracks, not the addiction, which is another reason why we sometimes call this stage defining insanity.
That's a tough one. And the families that I've worked with are incredible families. And it took something like this to actually just kind of dismantle them. So let's summarize this up in stage 6. So here's the last stage. This stage is appropriately called the call. This is when your normal has become living in and sorting through your loved one's collateral damage constantly. You can't escape it. You wake up to 15 texts demanding your help or berating you for something that you failed to do for them. The financial impact is undeniable at this point. Hospital bills, fines, damaged property, stolen property, bail, attempts at treatment, and every Band-Aid in between.
The resentments and the wreckage inside of your family at this point is insurmountable. Things that you never imagined were possible are happening on a daily basis. You're getting calls from jail, which you've sadly learned is actually easier than trying to go to bed not knowing where they are.
Can I jump in there? Yeah. Just recently, an incredible mother, a mother of incredibly high accomplishments, morals, values, fell victim to the fear that her son put into her with lots of different threats of this and that, which caused her to actually go to a friend of his to buy some marijuana to help calm him down in that crazy psychotic moment. can you see that it caused someone to do something they would have never fathomed doing because of the insanity?
Right. And this is maybe the most disturbing, is that you actually are waiting for the phone call to find out that they're gone. You have stopped planning vacations. You can't remember what it feels like to be yourself or to feel like yourself or to do any form of self-care or enjoying your other family members. If your child is the addict, you actually are jealous of your spouse because usually the men can disconnect from it more than the women, than the moms. And if your husband is the addict, you're embarrassed that you didn't see this sooner and that you thought that if you stayed and you fought for them, that you would be able to get through to them.
I hope as we've gone through those stages, you can look and identify where you're at. And the point of it isn't to make people feel bad that it's going to get worse or to rehash some of the things they've already gone through. It's because every family, we all do it, think that we're clinically unique from someone else. That our path out or the way to solve this is going to be somewhat different than everyone else. I hope that as we outline these, you can realize that these are the stages that everybody goes through. And regardless of wherever you are, your greatest enemy is fear. It's the strongest last line of defense that addiction uses to keep everybody paralyzed. And I do want to remind you, it's not your loved one. If you're so mad and infuriated that you just want to pull their hair out or choke them, remember, it is not them consciously doing it. And I know that's hard because you maybe feels like I'm condoning their behavior. I'm not. It's the disease that's taken control of them, that has removed their agency, that's causing you this fear and holding you hostage. And some of you, although you've never spoken it out loud, may wish or think that it would be easier if they did die. If that's where you're at, you're not alone. Because it would be easier to have them gone than to live with what's coming next. So rest assured, whatever stage you're in, there's still hope. There is. But there's hope if you're willing to take action. And in order to take action, you need help. So that you're educated, you're equipped with the tools, that you're supported, that you have what you need to take action. And action is typically done in the form of some serious boundaries. And I'll tell you what, they are scary as hell. And it's going to take a lot of professional help in order for you to have those boundaries and, more importantly, to hold them. So my only recommendation is stop waiting. If you're at stage 1 or 2, it doesn't need to get to 3 or 4. If you're at 3 or 4, heaven's sakes, you know what's coming. And if you're at stages 5 or 6, this is your chance. Don't miss it. We're grateful that you guys are here on this journey with us. We hope this information's helpful. I'm going to let my wife, unless you had something else to say.
What I was going to say was, the good news is if you're hearing yourself in these stages and you're going, oh my gosh, the great news is we created an entire program to support you through this. And I don't know if you've listened to I think it was 2 episodes ago, we had someone from our community talk about her experience and her journey and everything that she's gone through inside of this community. And it is such a powerful witness of what you can do when you have support. When you don't have support, it's not good. You lose the ability to move forward. You have to have the support in order to toe the line and do these excruciating things. And the amazing thing is when I watch these women carry each other through these unthinkable places that they find themselves in, it's why we do what we do. It's why we created it, because it is powerful and it allows change to happen.
Yeah, it's a tough line of work, but we've chose to do it because you know what? There are so many resources out there. It might seem confusing or difficult, but for your loved one in their addiction, there are an abundance of resources. There's now great ways to get insurance coverage, financial help to make it possible if you can't. There's a lot of resources out there, but as far as resources for the family, there's very few. You may be wondering, well, what control do I have? What am I going to do? I don't care if they're 18 or 45. I don't care if they're in your basement or out on the streets. There is a lot that you can do, whether it's financial, emotional. You can play a critical role in their journey to recovery. And no matter what, you have the ability to transform your family regardless or until they decide.
That's right. I'm going to read the Serenity Prayer for families, and then we're going to go. God, grant me the serenity to accept that I cannot change other people, the courage to change the person that I can, and the wisdom to know that it is me.
Thank you guys for joining us for another week of the Your Living Proof podcast. Please share it with somebody. You all know somebody who needs it. Have a great week.